Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Dialing In, this time again for our Pod Go. As I mentioned last time, I did an Eric Johnson style Dialing In for the Pod Go, which was kind of revisiting one of my earlier Helix presets that I created about 2 years, maybe more than 2 years ago. So I've been kind of going through some of my favorite presets that I've done for dialing in videos for the Helix, and I'm kind of revisiting them, maybe refreshing them a little bit using some of the new features we have. You know, some of the old ones I have, we're using techniques like the split crossover, which have since been replaced with the high and low shelf block. So, you know, we can kind of now get these to work in HX Stomp and Pod Go with very little, if any, alterations. Although sometimes there does have to be a few little tweaks. And then, of course, I'm using different guitars now than I was a couple years ago. So I'm just kind of giving these all a bit of a refresher and giving some of the Pod Go folks some nice custom tone presets that they can just grab, and hopefully that'll work for them right away. So this time I'm revisiting my Yngwie Malmsteen'ish preset that I did about, again, I'm not sure exactly when, probably a couple years ago for the Helix. And again, I was using a couple split crossovers, and I've really amalgamated that all down into a much more cohesive unit now that we can do it, and it fits on the Pod Go, it fits on HX Stomp, and I have a version for Helix. So I've redone it. What you'll see up on CustomTone right now is the Helix / HX Stomp version for anybody who has 2.8 firmware and above. It should load up fine on both. Like I said in the last video, I haven't tested it on Stomp. I don't always have my Stomp hooked up to my computer to sort of load these in, but it's on one path, less than 6 blocks. It should work fine. But I also have it on Pod Go, so that's going to be up on CustomTone too. So you guys can go grab those free of charge, and I hope you enjoy them. I originally did this with a playthrough video for Far Beyond the Sun from Yngwie's first album, Rising Force. And I obviously had to take that down for copyright reasons as I kind of scrubbed my channel of covers, but I'll try to maybe just quote some of his phrases and whatnot in this video, and hopefully that won't get me into any hot water, as it were. So let's go over to Pod Go Edit, and we'll take a look and see what I have going on. So we see I'm calling this preset Yngwie-ish 2020, just for the year that it is. So let's take a look and see what it is. Here's the signal path. I have a wah at the beginning, not being used. Didn't even do any settings on this, so just pretty much ignore it. That will not be on the Helix preset. Volume pedal at the end because it's part of the Pod Go chain. Again, I just have that set at 100%. Nothing going on there. One thing I did, as most folks will realize, and I talked about it in the Dialing in Eric Johnson-ish video, is that I've removed the compressor at the end. Not because I don't want it there, but again, there's limitations, right? HX Stomp only has 6 blocks. There's only so many blocks in the Pod Go that can be used. So, you know, it's usually a very subtle glue I use at the end, and the presets aren't going to fall apart without it. I just kind of like what it does to the presets. But if something has to go, and there's nothing else in that preset that I can let go of, the compressor will be what's gone. So if you see it there, it's not because I'm giving up on that. I still love that. And I would, if I was doing this on the Helix, I would probably still put it in, just again, gluing things together at the end by like a dB of gain reduction or so. And that's all I ever really used that for. But it's not here, and it's fine, right? So what I did do is I started with the Brit Plexi Norm. We'll take a look at those settings in a second. With a 412 greenback 25, I have a valve driver, overdrive pedal on. I've got a high and low shelf EQ. I have a parametric EQ. I have a little dab of delay and a little bit of reverb, and that's it. So let's take a look at the settings. Starting with the amp, like I said, 412 greenback 25 cabin with a 160 ribbon mic, 1 inch back, nothing else changed there, okay? Brit Plexi Norm, drive is going to be set on 10, bass on 3, mid and treble both cranked to 10, presence on 4, channel volume on 7.9, I'll change it to 8 just because it's a nice round number. Change that up as you need to match, you know, whatever output you need, or just change the output block is probably better because it's not going to affect the signal going into anything else. Though we don't have a compressor here, it probably won't change things too much. But master on 8, and the deeper functions I did not touch. Sag at 5, hum at 5, ripple at 5, bias at 6.5, bias X at 5. So that's the amp settings, and we'll take a listen to that kind of naked and raw in a second. I added a valve driver in here with a gain at 4.5, bass at 4.6, treble at 4.4, and level at 6.6. Reverb, we'll just jump to the end here, is a hall reverb with a decay of 5. I found this really brought the tone together, really added a nice ambience to it. Pre-delay of 20 milliseconds, low cut of 166 hertz, high cut of 4.3 kilohertz, mix of 31%. The delay was extremely subtle on this. I set the tempo at 168 because I believe that that's what the original Far Beyond the Sun tempo was. I set the note sync to a quarter note, feedback down to 0, so I'm not getting a bunch of repeats to cloud things up and muck things up. With a really low mix of 18%, just gives it a very tiny little bit of delay just to kind of help those notes run together a little bit. But you know, you could probably turn that off. I'll let you hear it with and without. You can make up your mind. And again, you can just turn these on and off and make whatever changes suits your playing and your ideals, right? Low and high shelf EQ. I went with a low frequency of 650 hertz and I cut all the frequencies below that by 3 dB. And all the frequencies above 4 kilohertz, I boosted by 9.4 dB, just to get a little sizzle on the top end that I hear in there that I really kind of liked for this, and gave it a little bit of grain, I hope in a good way, that worked. And then I also had a parametric EQ. Low frequency of 170 hertz with a really high Q of 6.1, pulling that back 4 dB. Mid frequency of 1.7 kilohertz with a Q of 2.5 and pulled that back 2 dB. And then I went up to 8 kilohertz with a Q of 2.6 and put in 4 dB. And a lot of folks might say, what is that? Well, there's a certain little sizzle I hear a lot of times in Malmsteen's tone. And, you know, I'll play without that and with it, and you can tell me what you think. And again, it's as simple as, you know, if you don't like that, roll that back and it's gone, right? With my monitoring system, my guitar, my playing, it sort of worked. So, okay, so that's what we have. So let's do this. Let's turn off reverb, delay, EQs, valve driver, and we'll go just to what the amp and the cab sound like as such. So you can hear it's missing a lot. Very kind of tubby low end to it, not a lot of presence. Okay, let's bring the valve driver in on that just to kind of hear what happens with that. So here it is with the valve driver. You're very likely going to hear me butcher a lot of Yngwie licks throughout the course of this video, much like the first video, I think. I haven't played much Yngwie lately. Okay, so that's with the valve driver. It kind of gives it a little more of a searing quality now. All right, what happens when I bring that reverb in at the end? Here's the hall reverb. I find this really brings it together nicely. By the way, I'm on my neck single coil pickup here. I could split my bridge pickup. Works just as nicely there. Go back to my neck. Okay. And that's what we have with the reverb. Now that delay I was telling you about, let's bring it in. It's very subtle. Here's what that sounds like. Kind of helps the notes maybe just run together a little bit. All right, so it's still a little bit tubby and muddy sounding, I think. So what happens here when I bring the high shelf in to add some of that nice sort of upper grain in? That's what this sounds like here. All right, so that's coming together nicely. If I go to the bridge split coil, okay, it's working. Now, finally, I'll go back to the neck pickup. Let's go over to our parametric EQ, and that's what it sounds like for the finished product on it. Okay, so that's what that sounds like, and I found that that worked kind of nicely for an Yngwie tone. Now, that's on the neck pickup, like I was mentioning. If I go to the split coil on the bridge, and if I push that in and get to the humbucker, notice it smooths it out a little bit. And that's the tone. So I hope you guys like that. No playthrough video. Again, I would have loved to have gone back and revisited something off his first album, but I'm really avoiding the cover songs right now. I didn't really have time to put together any sort of sound alike. Maybe I'll do that later with this if I have a few minutes and see what I can do with it. So I hope you guys enjoy that. That's up on CustomTone for Helix HX Stomp. Same preset that you can load into either, and for Pod Go, and I hope you guys like it. If you do like this stuff and you want to support me, I do have CustomTone presets that are for sale, and that's kind of how I'm able to continue doing the free videos. And if you do want to support me there, I've got a lot available for Pod Go, Helix, HX Stomp, and hope you like some of those. Please like the video, share it if you don't mind with anybody you think would enjoy it, and subscribe to the channel and hit the little bell notification so you get notified when I put new videos out. And I will be back soon with some more content. Thank you guys so much for your time. Thanks for your support, and thank you for tuning in. It really, really is much appreciated. I'll be back soon. Ciao for now.